My name is Gabriella Shaw. I'm 33 years old, or at least, I was the night I died. In this life, I'm 25 again, but I remember everything. I remember the first life where my sister in law, Vanessa, destroyed me piece by piece, while my own family watched and smiled like it was a TV show. I remember the way my mom used to say, Gabby, you're so sensitive. Vanessa just has a strong personality. I remember my dad rolling his eyes every time I tried to defend myself, like I was a teenager throwing a tantrum instead of a grown woman begging to be believed. And I remember the last thing I saw in that first life: headlights cutting across the rain, the taste of blood flooding my mouth, and a message from my brother's phone lighting up my cracked screen. You really had to ruin Thanksgiving, didn't you? I hadn't ruined anything. All I'd done was tell the truth. But in my first life, the truth never mattered. Vanessa had already won. It started slow. That's the worst part. You never realize you're the family scapegoat until the roles are fully cast and the show is already deep into season 4. By the time you notice, everybody else has memorized their lines, and you're the only one still improvising. Vanessa married my older brother, Jake, when I was 27. She was the picture-perfect American daughter-in-law. Blonde hair with the kind of blowout you only get from a $200 salon visit, delicate gold jewelry, an MBA from a fancy East Coast school. She showed up to family dinners with charcuterie boards and organic brie, talking about networking and leveraging social capital like she was hosting a TED Talk in my parents' living room in suburban Ohio. My parents adored her instantly. She called my mom Mom within a week. She remembered my dad's favorite bourbon and bought him a bottle of small batch something for Christmas. She listened to his recycled high school football stories like she hadn't already heard them 3 times. She laughed at the right moments, leaned in, made eye contact. Next to her, I looked small, just Gabriella. Gabriella, who worked in marketing for a mid-sized tech company. Gabriella, who still had student loans and drove a used Honda Civic with a dent on the passenger side from that one ice storm. Gabriella, who brought Costco pumpkin pie to Thanksgiving because she had to work late the night before. And Vanessa knew exactly how to play that contrast. It started with little jokes. Oh, Gabby, you're so creative. Not everyone is meant to be a numbers person like me. You're still renting? That's okay. You're just figuring things out. You're single now, right? Guys love girls with personality. Always with a laugh. Always with a smile. Always followed by my mom chuckling. That's just how she talks, honey. Don't take it so seriously. By the time I realized none of it was a joke, she had already turned my entire family into her personal fan club. I was the dramatic one, the jealous little sister, the one who couldn't handle the fact that my brother married a superstar. And then came the setup that finally broke me. It was Thanksgiving in my first life. My parents' house smelled like turkey, stuffing, and that cinnamon sugar mix my mom sprinkled on top of her sweet potatoes every single year. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade was on the TV, muted so my dad could flip back and forth to the Cowboys game. My little niece, Lily, was running around in turkey leggings, leaving cracker crumbs everywhere. I had spent days putting together a slideshow for my parents' anniversary surprise. Old photos, home videos digitized from dusty VHS tapes, even a voicemail my grandpa left on my mom's phone before he died. I'd stayed up until 2 in the morning, crying and editing on my laptop, wanting it to be perfect. The plan was to show it after dinner, all of us squeezed onto the couch under throw blankets from Target, with pie and coffee, like when we were kids and rented DVDs from Redbox. But before dessert, Vanessa stood up. She clinked her wine glass with a spoon. Before we cut the pie, she said with this soft, serious voice, there's something I found, and I think we need to talk about it as a family. My stomach dropped. She turned to me, face arranged into sympathy. Gabby, I didn't want to believe it, but I think you owe Mom and Dad an explanation. She pulled out her iPhone, opened an email, and turned the screen toward my parents. Your daughter, she said gently, tried to take out a secret loan using the house as collateral. On the screen was a loan application. My name, my parents' address, my fake signature. I had never seen that lender's name before in my life, but my parents didn't know that. My dad's face went bright red. Gabriella, what the hell is this? My mom's hand flew to her chest. You tried to put our house at risk? Vanessa had accidentally found the email while helping my mom set up her online billing. She made sure everyone knew she had saved my parents from financial disaster. In reality, she had set me up, the same way she had slowly isolated me from my brother, the same way she had turned every minor disagreement into, Gabby's unstable. I tried to explain, tried to say it wasn't me, that anyone could fake an e-signature. No one is out to get you, Gabby, my dad snapped. Stop watching so many crime shows. And when I said it must have been Vanessa, because who else had access to Mom's email and the house paperwork, she gasped like I'd slapped her. You think I would do that to this family? She whispered, eyes shining with fake tears. After everything I've done to help? I love your parents like my own. My mom put an arm around her shoulders. My dad shook his head at me like I was a stranger. That was it. I was done. I grabbed my coat and keys off the bench by the door. My mom begged me to stay and talk like adults. My dad said, if you walk out, don't bother coming back until you grow up. I walked out. Half an hour later, in the dark November rain, I saw headlights swerve into my lane on a 2-lane road behind a strip mall. The other car never stopped. The last thought in my mind wasn't fear. It was rage. If I ever get another chance, I thought, I swear I will make her pay, and I will never let my family treat me like I'm crazy again. Then everything went black. Part 2, Waking Up. 10 years earlier, I woke up to the sound of my mom yelling up the stairs. Gabriella, you're going to be late for work again. My eyes flew open. No pain, no rain, no blood. I was in my childhood bedroom, the white ceiling fan with one slightly dusty blade, the old Taylor Swift and Paramore posters peeling at the corners, the cheap IKEA bookshelf with my YA paperbacks in messy rows, the smell of drugstore vanilla body spray and fabric softener. My phone was buzzing on the nightstand. I reached for it with shaking hands. The case was my old teal one with a chipped corner. The lock screen said, August 19th, 2015. My heart stopped. No, there was no way. 2015 was the year before Vanessa married my brother. The year before she moved into our orbit. The year before everything went to hell. I jumped out of bed and ran to the mirror on my closet door. A 25-year-old face stared back at me. No fine lines around my mouth. No tired, baggy eyes from too much overtime and too many crying in the bathroom breaks. My hair was longer, darker, messier. Okay, I whispered to myself. Either I'm dead, I'm dreaming, or something else. My mom knocked lightly and pushed my door open without waiting. She was younger too, less gray in her hair, fewer lines on her forehead. She wore a faded Ohio State sweatshirt and held a mug that said World's Okayest Mom. You're going to hit traffic if you don't leave in the next 15 minutes, she said. And don't forget, we're doing family dinner on Sunday. Jake's bringing his girlfriend for the first time. My stomach flipped so hard I thought I might throw up. His girlfriend. Not fiancé, not wife. I swallowed. What's her name again? My mom rolled her eyes. Gabby, seriously, you forgot? Vanessa. Vanessa Cooper. She works in finance or consulting or something. She's flying in from New York. Vanessa Cooper. I was really here. 10 years earlier, back before the wedding, before the loan scam, before the car. I went through that day on autopilot, driving the same route to the same bland office park, sitting at the same gray cubicle with a squeaky office chair. My inbox was full of emails I technically remembered writing the first time around, but the details were fuzzy, like trying to recall a dream. At lunch, I went out to my car, locked the doors, and just sat there. I opened Safari on my phone and typed in a news headline I remembered clearly from years later. Nothing. I checked the date again. 2015. I scrolled through Instagram. No niece yet. No wedding photos. My own profile was full of grainy brunch shots and selfies with bad eyebrows. Slowly, it sank in. I had gotten my wish. I had another chance. This time, I wasn't going to be the clueless little sister everyone dismissed. This time, I wasn't going to cry alone in my car or let my parents gaslight me into silence. This time, I wasn't going to let Vanessa write the script because I knew how the story ended last time, and I was about to rewrite it. Part 3. Meeting the Villain Again. Family dinners at my parents' house in Ohio always felt the same. My dad glued to whatever game was on, my mom buzzing around the kitchen like a hummingbird in Target leggings, and me trying not to get stuck doing dishes alone. But that Sunday, everything shimmered with this surreal double vision. I'd done this before. I'd sat at that same maple dining table with the little chip on the corner from where Jake dropped a plate in high school. I'd passed the salad bowl my mom always overdressed. I'd watched my parents instantly fall for Vanessa's act. I knew what was coming. What I didn't know was how it would feel to see her again for the first time, knowing exactly who she would become. The doorbell rang right around 6. My dad yelled, "Come on in, it's open," because God forbid he hit pause on the game. I stood in the entryway, holding my breath. Vanessa stepped inside like she already belonged there. She wore a cream sweater dress that somehow looked both casual and expensive, knee-high boots, and a delicate gold necklace. Her hair was perfectly blown out, and her nails were that nonchalant nude color that screams, "Yes, I get them done professionally every 2 weeks." She carried a reusable Whole Foods tote, like she just casually stopped by to save the planet. "Hi," she said brightly. "You must be Gabby." I stared at her for a second too long, memories crashing against reality. Vanessa standing beside Jake at the altar. Vanessa holding Lily at the hospital. Vanessa's fake tears as she showed my parents that email. I swallowed it all down and pasted on a polite smile. "Yeah," I said. "Nice to meet you." She leaned in for a half hug that smelled like Sephora, an expensive perfume. Here we go, I thought. Round 2. Dinner was baked ziti, garlic bread, and salad out of a giant plastic mixing bowl because my mom refuses to buy an actual salad bowl. My dad turned off the game, which is how I knew he was truly trying to impress Vanessa. She took control of the table effortlessly. She asked my parents questions about how they met and laughed in all the right places. She complimented the house. She told a story about closing a big deal at her firm in Manhattan, making it sound glamorous and exhausting at the same time. She sprinkled in just enough vulnerability to seem human. New York can be lonely sometimes, you know, but not enough to invite actual intimacy. And in between, she nudged at me. "So Gabby, Jake says you work in marketing. That must be fun? Still driving that little Civic, huh? Hey, at least it's fuel efficient. You live like, 20 minutes away? That's so nice. I could never move back home. I'd go crazy." Last time, I'd flinched. I tried to defend myself. I tried to prove I was just as successful, just as driven, just as important. This time, I didn't give her the show she wanted. Yep, I said easily, taking a bite of bread. Marketing pays the bills. When she made the comment about my car, I shrugged. It gets me where I need to go, I said. I'm good. Instead of jumping up to wash dishes alone while everyone else stayed at the table, I waited. I looked at my mom. Need help? I asked. My mom, surprised, nodded. Sure, honey. I caught Vanessa's eyes. She hesitated for a fraction of a second before offering, I'll help too. In the kitchen, my mom handed Vanessa a dish towel instead of me. The last time I lived this moment, it had been the opposite. Vanessa had complained about her nails, and I'd ended up scrubbing pans while she sat with my dad talking stocks. This time, I stayed close to my mom, rinsing dishes, asking her about her week. Vanessa tried one of her first little digs. So, Gabby, she said, wiping a plate slowly. Any big plans? Career moves? Dating? New adventures? My mom's ears perked up. Last time. This had turned into a long conversation about how I should be thinking about marriage and your brother's already so settled. This time, I just smiled. I'm good, I said calmly. I'm focusing on saving money and figuring out what I actually want. I'd rather do things on my own timeline than rush into something that looks good on Instagram. My mom made a vague humming noise, but Vanessa's eyes sharpened for a second. She wasn't used to me deflecting so cleanly. That was the first night I realized something important. Vanessa wasn't some supernatural monster. She just took advantage of weaknesses. Last time, she used mine against me. This time, I was going to use hers. Part 4. The slow war. People think revenge is this big cinematic moment. Betrayal, confrontation, fireworks, credits. It's not. Revenge, at least the kind I wanted, is made of 1,000 small, boring choices. It's getting receipts. It's keeping your mouth shut when someone expects you to explode. It's letting people show you exactly who they are and filing it away for later. In my first life, I made it easy for Vanessa. I reacted to everything. I cried when she cut me down in front of my parents. I argued with my mom. I tried to debate my dad like I was in court and he was the jury. I thought logic would save me. In this second life, I realized something brutal. My family didn't care about logic. They cared about their comfort, and Vanessa made them comfortable. She made them feel like they had raised a successful son with a successful wife. She knew how to stroke their egos and hide the knife in her other hand. So I changed my strategy. I stopped trying to convince them. I started quietly building my case. The first step was boring: passwords and privacy. I remembered how, in my first life, Vanessa used to help my mom with online banking. My mom would just hand over her laptop and walk away to check on something in the oven. Vanessa would sit there for 20 minutes, checking if that refund went through, while my dad called out from the couch asking if anyone wanted pie. The loan scam had been possible because Vanessa had too much access. So in this life, about a month after that first family dinner, I just happened to stop by my parents' place with a box of donuts from Dunkin' and said, "Hey, can I update some stuff on your computer? There were a bunch of security breaches in the news." My dad shrugged. "Sure, kiddo." My mom handed over her laptop. I set up a password manager. I changed their banking passwords to something more secure. I added two-factor authentication with their phones. I printed out a list of never do this steps and taped it inside the pantry door next to the grocery list. Also, I said casually, don't let anyone log into your bank without you sitting right there, okay? Not me, not Jake, not Vanessa, not anybody. Too many scams going around. I work in tech, remember? I see this stuff at work all the time. My mom frowned but nodded. I trust you on this stuff. Trust. I tasted the irony. Good. That was step 1. Step 2 was documentation. I checked Ohio's recording laws on my lunch break at work. One party consent, perfect. The next time we had a family brunch at this chain restaurant off the highway, sticky laminated menus, unlimited coffee, the whole Midwest experience. I turned on a voice memo on my phone and left it face down on the table. I listened later, earbuds in, lying on my bed. There it was, clear as day. Vanessa. I mean, I just worry about Gabby sometimes. She's so impulsive. I just want what's best for her, you know? Sometimes she talks about money like it just grows on trees. My mom, I know, she's always been that way. That's why I'm glad you're around to help us with this stuff. You're so responsible. I stopped the recording. My chest hurt, but not from surprise. I'd heard this conversation before, just not with this level of clarity. I didn't confront them. I didn't scream or cry. I labeled the file, Brunch, Sept 2015 Vanessa, Frames Gabby Irresponsible. Emisray Revenge is boring. Revenge is files and folders. Step 3 was rebuilding my brother. In my first life, Jake had become this stranger in a polo shirt whose every sentence started with Vanessa thinks or Vanessa says. He'd gone from my goofy big brother, who used to sneak me Taco Bell after football games, to a guy who let his wife decide what kind of car my parents should buy. I hated him for it. This time, I didn't have the luxury of hate. I started small. I texted him memes. I called him to ask about his job without bringing up Vanessa at all. When we hung out, I suggested grabbing wings at the bar we used to go to in college, just the two of us. We watched the Browns lose spectacularly on all the big screens. At halftime, I nudged him. "You happy?" I asked. He looked at me surprised. "What do you mean?" "With your life," I said. "With work, with everything." He shrugged. "Yeah, I guess. Stressful, but that's adult life, right?" I sipped my beer. "If you're happy, I'm happy." He blinked, thrown off. In my first life, I would have said something like, "Are you sure about Vanessa?" Or, "Do you think she's good for you?" And he would have shut down. Not this time. I needed him to see things on his own. All I had to do was wait. Part 5. Her first move, this time I'm ready. Vanessa's first attack in this life came packaged as concern, just like it had before. It was a Sunday afternoon at my parents' place. NFL on TV, my dad yelling at referees like they could hear him through the screen, the house smelling like frozen pizza and laundry detergent. I was at the kitchen table helping my mom scroll through Airbnbs for a trip she wanted to take to Nashville with her church friends. Vanessa walked in with a tray of homemade cookies that looked like they'd been styled for Pinterest. "Hi, family," she sang. She set the cookies down, leaned on the counter, and watched us for a second. "What are you guys up to?" "Trying to find a place in Nashville that doesn't cost a kidney," my mom said. "Everything's so expensive now." Vanessa tilted her head. "Well, maybe Gabby can help. She's so creative with money." My mom laughed in that way that said she didn't totally get the joke, but wanted to be part of it anyway. I looked up slowly. "What do you mean?" Vanessa held up her hands. "I'm just saying, you're always talking about your credit cards and points and stuff. You're the queen of squeezing a dollar." In my first life, this would have devolved quickly. I would have explained my budget. My mom would have asked if I was okay. My dad would have asked if I needed to move back home. This time, I just smiled. "Yeah," I said. "I've learned a lot. I'm actually working with a financial advisor now." That part was true. Second life, second chance. I had gone to a small, slightly overpriced office downtown and had a free consultation with a woman named Dana, who wore sensible heels and didn't talk down to me. "I figure," I continued, "if I'm going to build a life I want, I can't keep pretending numbers don't matter." It's been kind of empowering, honestly. Vanessa's eyes flashed, just for a second. She didn't like me sounding responsible. It messed with her narrative. Later that afternoon, while my mom and I were clearing dishes, Vanessa slid up next to her with a sigh. "Are you sure Gabby's okay?" she murmured, low enough she thought I couldn't hear. "She talks about money a lot. It just makes me worry she's not stable." I could have turned around right then and called her out. Instead, I finished drying the plate in my hands, set it down gently, and walked out of the kitchen. I pulled out my phone and checked my recording app. Still running. Labeled that one, Sunday dinner. Vanessa, implies Gabby unstable. M4A. This time, I wasn't going to lose my mind trying to convince people that she was malicious. I was going to let her talk. And I was going to make sure I caught every word. A few months later, she escalated. I got a call at work from my mom. Her voice was stiff. "Gabriella, did you ask Vanessa to help you get a loan?" I froze. "What?" "She told me you came to her about consolidating your debt or something, and that you were thinking about using our house as collateral." "Is that true?" There it was, the opening act of the same play. I swallowed the old panic and forced myself to stay steady. Co-workers walked past my cubicle with Starbucks cups and printed reports while my heart pounded like I'd run a mile. "No," I said calmly. "I never asked her that. And I would never use your house for anything." "Mom, did you sign anything? Did you click any links?" My mom hesitated. "No, of course not. She just mentioned it. She said she was worried about you." Relief crashed into me so hard my knees went weak. This time, she hadn't gotten far. "Okay," I said. "Do you mind if I come over tonight and take a look at your email and bank stuff? Just in case." My mom exhaled. "Fine, but I don't want any drama, Gabriella." Oh, there would be drama. Just not yet. That night, I sat at my parents' dining table with my mom's laptop in front of me, my own laptop open next to it, and my phone recording on the side. "See this?" I said, pointing at an email that looked like it was from her bank. "This is fake. Look at the sender address. It's off by one letter. If you'd clicked this and logged in, they could have gotten everything." My mom's face went pale. "Oh my God. Did Vanessa sit here with you while you checked this?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "She was just helping," my mom said defensively. "You know I'm bad with this stuff." "I know," I said, forcing my voice to stay gentle. "That's why I told you not to let anyone do it without you watching. Not even me." "Mom, I need you to really hear me. I work in tech. Scams like this are everywhere. And if someone wanted to pretend to be me and mess with you financially, they could." That part hung heavy in the air. I watched the thought cross her mind and get swatted away by her need to keep the peace. "I just don't want drama in this house," she said finally. "Then don't sign anything without me seeing it first," I replied. I changed a few settings, turned off the computer, and went home. Later, I wrote in a notebook I kept hidden under my bed. "She's probing the edges of the same scam. Mom still trusts her more than me. Don't bite yet. Wait for the big play. Revenge is patience." Part 6. Building the Trap. By the time the second year rolled around, Vanessa had my family firmly in her orbit again, just like before. My dad asked her opinion on everything from stocks to what brand of grill to buy. My mom called her before she called me when she had a question about a bill. My brother repeated her opinions like they were his own. The difference now was that I wasn't confused. In my first life, I'd spent so much time wondering, is it me? Am I overreacting? Am I crazy? This time, I knew exactly what game she was playing, so I started playing my own. First, I fed her bait. One night after dinner at their place, a nice little 3-bedroom in a perfectly average development with HOA rules about lawn height. I lingered in the kitchen while Vanessa loaded the dishwasher with the same precision she applied to everything. Jake told me you've been thinking about refinancing your student loans, she said casually. I kept my face carefully open. Yeah, I don't know. A couple of companies reached out. I'm just looking at options. I'm kind of scared of getting scammed, though. Her eyes lit up in that fake concern way I recognized all too well. Oh my God. Yeah, there are so many scams out there, she said. You really have to be careful. I could help you look if you want. I'm good with paperwork. I bet you are, I said lightly. Honestly, I might just talk to my advisor. She's been super helpful, and I'd rather keep everything in one place. The disappointment flickered across her face and vanished. But I'd planted a seed. 2 weeks later, I accidentally left a printed mailer from some loan company in my purse and pulled it out at my parents' place, making sure Vanessa could see the logo. I keep getting these, I sighed. They make it sound so easy. Just sign here, low interest, blah blah. Let me see, Vanessa said, grabbing it. She scanned it, eyes flicking back and forth. You really shouldn't mess with these, she said. If you're not careful, you could end up putting other people at risk. I tilted my head. Other people? You know, like if you involved your parents or used the house. She shrugged, pretending it was a random thought. I nodded slowly. Right. That would be bad. My mom wasn't paying attention. My dad was yelling at the TV again. I was the only one who saw the gleam in her eyes. She was already imagining a future where she caught me doing something awful and got to play hero again. Good. Let her. Second, I built my own support system. In my first life, I'd been so isolated. My closest friends had moved out of state. I drifted away from the one college roommate who actually told me the truth. I'd stayed late at work because I didn't want to go home and sit alone in my apartment. This time, I made different choices. I found a therapist who took my insurance and actually understood words like gaslighting and family scapegoat without making me explain them. I joined a women's networking group that met twice a month at a coffee shop downtown. I started going to a yoga class on Saturday mornings instead of just saying I'd start working out next week for 3 years straight. I didn't tell my family everything. I stopped oversharing. When my mom asked, "What have you been up to?" I didn't say, "Crying on my couch about how everyone hates me." I said, "Work's busy, but I'm enjoying my yoga class. I made a new friend named Tiana. We're thinking about going to a concert in Cleveland next month." I built a life outside of them. So if everything went nuclear, I wouldn't be standing in the fallout alone. Third, I consulted a lawyer. It sounds dramatic, but so is getting framed for attempted fraud. I made an appointment with a local attorney who specialized in consumer protection and identity theft. His office was in a strip mall between a Subway and a nail salon. He wore a slightly wrinkled suit and had a Buckeyes mug on his desk. I told him a hypothetical story about a friend whose family member tried to open a loan in her name and frame her. He listened, took notes, and then said, "Okay, here's the deal. If someone uses your personal information to attempt to open a fraudulent loan, that's a crime. Identity theft, wire fraud, maybe more depending on how they did it. If you have evidence, emails, IP addresses, recordings, we can absolutely take that to law enforcement or at least use it as leverage." "Even if it's family?" I asked. He shrugged. "Family does some of the worst scams. Doesn't change the law." I walked out of there with his business card in my wallet and a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years. If Vanessa tried the same stunt again, I wouldn't just be the crazy sister making accusations. I'd have a lawyer. I'd have receipts. And I'd have a plan. Part 7. Thanksgiving, rewritten. 10 years after the night I died, I stood in my parents' kitchen again, watching my mom baste a turkey like it was a competitive sport. The same smells: turkey, stuffing, cinnamon sugar on sweet potatoes. The same background noise: Macy's parade on mute, my dad flipping between that and the Cowboys game. The same decorations: the ceramic turkey I made in second grade, the give thanks sign from Hobby Lobby. Different me. I'd moved into a better apartment with a roommate I actually liked. I'd gotten a promotion at work because I wasn't constantly mentally spiraling. I had friends coming over the next day for Friendsgiving, where everyone would bring a dish and we'd drink too much boxed wine. And I had a folder on my laptop labeled, "If Vanessa tries me again." Inside, recordings of her implying I was unstable. Screenshots of texts where she twisted my words. Email headers from suspicious messages sent while she was logged into my mom's laptop. A written statement I'd already shown to my lawyer, with dates and details. All I needed was for her to overplay her hand. I didn't have to wait long. Dinner went smoothly at first. My niece Lily, now a talkative kindergartner, spilled cranberry sauce on her dress. Jake told a story about some nightmare client at his job. Vanessa laughed at all my dad's jokes and topped off my mom's wine before she even asked. I watched them all like a movie I'd already seen. After we cleared the plates, I stood up and smiled. "Okay," I said. "Before dessert, I have something I want to show you guys." My mom clapped her hands. "Is this about the slideshow?" I blinked. The slideshow? I'd forgotten that part for a second in the chaos of my plan. "Yeah," I said, heart squeezing. "It is." I turned off the lights, hooked up my laptop to the TV, and hit play. Old photos filled the screen. My parents on their wedding day. My dad in his 80s mustache era. Jake holding me in the hospital as a newborn. Family road trips in the minivan. Me with a tragic middle school haircut. Home video clips played in between. My parents' younger voices echoing in the room. By the time it ended, my mom was crying. My dad was pretending he wasn't. And even Vanessa dabbed at her eyes delicately. "That was beautiful, Gabriella," my mom whispered. "Thank you." I smiled. "You're welcome." For a second, I let myself just have that moment. Then Vanessa cleared her throat. "If it's okay," she said, standing slowly. There's something I found, and I think we need to talk about it as a family." There it was. The script. My heart rate picked up, but my mind stayed icy clear. She turned to me with that same face of pity I remembered so well. "Gabby, I didn't want to believe it," she said, "but I think you owe your parents an explanation." She pulled out her phone, opened an email, and turned the screen toward my parents. "Your daughter," she said softly, "tried to take out a secret loan using the house as collateral." My mother gasped. My father's jaw clenched. I leaned back in my chair and watched. This time, I wasn't blindsided. This time, I had been waiting. "Vanessa," I said calmly, "can you show everyone the email header?" She blinked. "What?" "The header," I repeated. "You know, the part that shows where it was sent from. Since you're so good with computers, I'm sure you checked that before accusing me of something this serious." My dad shot me a warning look. "Gabriella." "No, Dad," I said, still calm. "If I really tried to commit fraud with your house, you should be furious. I'd want you to be. So let's just make sure we're mad at the right person." Vanessa's smile wobbled. I printed it out." "Perfect," I said. "Can I see the printout?" She hesitated, then pulled a folded paper from her purse and handed it to my mom, who passed it to my dad, who finally slid it down the table to me, like it was something contaminated. I glanced at it. then pulled my own laptop closer and opened a folder. Before we go any further, I said, looking at my parents, I want to remind you of something. A while back, I told you that your online accounts weren't secure. I asked you not to let anyone access your bank without you right there. I told you scams like this happen all the time. My mom swallowed. I remember. Good, I said, because I've been tracking suspicious activity on your accounts ever since. At work, we deal with phishing attacks constantly, so I know what to look for. I clicked a file and turned my laptop so everyone could see the screen. This, I said, is the original version of that email from your bank. It's fake. The sender address is wrong by one letter. The IP address traces back to... I clicked again, pulling up a simple trace report I'd had a tech friend help me interpret. The guest Wi-Fi network at Jake and Vanessa's house. A heavy silence fell across the table. My dad frowned. What does that mean? It means, I said carefully, that someone using their Wi-Fi on a device logged into Mom's email, created this bank email, and then found it while helping Mom with her bills. I looked straight at Vanessa. Do you want to explain that? Her face had gone pale, then red, then pale again. That doesn't prove anything, she snapped. Wi-Fi is... It's not that simple. You're twisting things. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You making up stories and... I clicked another file. Her voice filled the room. Are you sure Gabby's okay? She talks about money a lot. It just makes me worry she's not stable. My mom's eyes widened. What is that? I told you I work in tech, I said. I record a lot of things. That was from Sunday dinner, last fall. Here's another one. I clicked again. You know, like if you involved your parents or used the house. The blood drained from my mom's face. My dad looked like someone had hit him. I was just trying to help, Vanessa stammered. I was trying to protect you from her, from... Did you or did you not create this fake bank email? I asked. Yes or no? Jake finally spoke. His voice was rough. Vanessa, did you do this? She turned to him, eyes filling with tears. I was trying to protect your parents. She's irresponsible. She talks about loans and debt and... That's not an answer, I said. Yes or no? She exploded. Fine, she shouted. Yes, I made the email, but I only did it because I knew you were going to do something stupid eventually. I was trying to get ahead of it so your parents wouldn't lose everything because your sister can't grow up. The room went dead quiet. My dad's face was the color of brick. My mom's hand shook where it rested on the table. Jake stared at his wife like he'd never seen her before. You tried to frame my sister for fraud, he said slowly, on our parents' house. Vanessa's mascara was starting to smear. I was trying to protect... No, I cut in. My voice was steady. But my hands were shaking under the table. You were trying to destroy me in front of the only people whose opinion I grew up caring about. You tried in the first life. You tried again in this one. The difference is, this time, I didn't walk out without proof. I took a breath. And for the record, I've already spoken to a lawyer. I showed him everything. The emails, the IP traces, the recordings. He said if I wanted to press charges, I could. My mom gasped. Charges? Yes, I said, because this isn't just family drama. It's a crime. Vanessa laughed, a short hysterical sound. You wouldn't. I met her eyes. You tried to ruin my life, I said quietly. In one timeline, you succeeded. Do you really want to gamble that I won't hold you accountable in this one? I watched the realization flicker across her face, that something was different now, that I wasn't the same easy target. Jake pushed his chair back. The scrape of it across the hardwood was deafening. I need you to leave, he told her. Now. She stared at him, stunned. Jake, go to my car, he said. I'll drive you home later. I need to talk to my family alone. For the first time, she looked small. She grabbed her purse with shaking hands and hurried out of the dining room. The front door opened and closed. The silence she left behind was heavier than any shouting. Part 8. New Rules. New Life. For a long moment, no one spoke. The TV was still on in the living room, commentators talking about halftime stats like nothing had happened. Lily whispered something to her stuffed animal at the kids' table, sensing tension but not understanding it. My mom finally broke. She covered her face with both hands and started to sob. "I didn't know," she cried. "I swear to God, Gabby, I didn't know." I swallowed the hard knot in my throat. "I know," I said softly. "That's the problem." My dad cleared his throat. His voice was hoarse. "I should have listened to you," he said. "All those times you said she was. I just thought you were being jealous or dramatic. I didn't want there to be a problem. So I pretended there wasn't one." I nodded. "You wanted the story to be simple. Happy son, perfect daughter-in-law, slightly messy daughter who'll figure it out eventually. Vanessa made that story easy for you." Jake sank back into his chair, like the weight of the last 10 years had just finally landed. "Did she, in that scenario your lawyer talked about, would she have actually been able to get a loan?" he asked. "Maybe," I said. "Maybe not. But even trying is enough. And if she'd succeeded, I would have been the villain forever." He looked at me, eyes shining. "Is that what happened? In that other life you keep hinting about?" I smiled sadly. I'd never told them about the crash. Not fully. Not the way I remembered it. "Yes," I said. "That's what happened. And I died thinking all of you chose her version of me instead of believing the real one." My mom reached for my hand, fingers ice cold. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "We were stupid. We were gullible." There it was. The word, gullible, easily led, eager to be managed. Vanessa hadn't hypnotized them. She just offered them a story where they never had to feel uncomfortable, and they'd eaten it up. "I'm not going to the police," I said finally. "Not right now. That's my choice. But I'm going to send all of this, every file, to my lawyer and have him keep it on record. And I'm not going to pretend this was just a misunderstanding. It wasn't. It was malicious." My dad nodded slowly. "Whatever you need to feel safe again, we'll support that." I believed him, for the first time in a long time. But I also knew better than to rebuild my entire life around their promises. Because here's the thing about second chances. They're not just about changing what other people do. They're about changing what you tolerate. In the months that followed, everything shifted. Jake moved out into a small rental near his office. He started going to therapy. He called me more. Sometimes we talked about sports or work. Sometimes we talked about how it feels to wake up and realize you've been living in someone else's version of your life. "Do you hate me?" he asked once, voice small. I thought about my first life, about how I died with his angry text on my phone. "No," I said gently. "I hated who you let yourself become. That's different." Vanessa tried to spin the story, of course. She told her parents I was crazy. She told some of my parents' friends that I'd always had issues and was obsessed with taking her down. The difference this time was that I didn't chase every rumor. I didn't show up at people's houses begging them to believe me. I didn't forward long emails explaining my side. If someone wanted to know the truth, they could ask. I kept working. I kept going to therapy. I kept doing yoga on Saturdays and Friendsgiving every year, and long walks in the park with Tiana and my other friends, talking about podcasts and relationships and the shows we were binge watching. I built a life that didn't revolve around being the good daughter or the difficult sister. I built a life where I was just me, Gabriella Shaw, not a villain, not a victim, just a woman who had been given an impossible opportunity, the chance to live her 20s twice and choose differently the second time. Every Thanksgiving now, I take a moment alone on the back porch of my parents' house. The air is cold, and you can smell fireplaces from the neighbors' houses. Somewhere, a kid is screaming about not wanting to wear a jacket. I look up at the sky and think about the version of me who died in the rain on that dark road, convinced she was utterly alone. You weren't crazy, I tell her quietly. You were right about her, about all of it. If I could send one message out into the world, to every woman who's been cast as the problem in her own family for daring to see the truth, it would be this. You do not need a car crash and a cosmic reboot to reclaim your life. You just need to start keeping receipts, to start trusting your own memory more than other people's comfort, to start saying, no, that's not what happened, even when everyone at the table wants you to stay quiet. In my first life, my sister-in-law tried to ruin me, and my whole family let her. In this life, I let her try. And then I made sure she never forgot what happened when the scapegoat finally refused to play her part.